faces and also to see some faces that, some known faces that you've been with us since the beginning of this webinar series. So this is our final session in the series of Our Future, Our Green Deal, which is part of the project Imagining a Climate Just Future, founded by the European Union through the SERV program. Over the past months, we have explored different aspects of the European Green Deal from an ecofeminist and social justice perspective, always connecting or trying to connect a little bit policies with everyday life. And we're really happy to close this series with you and with the experts that we are having today, that we will be speaking a little bit about energy poverty in the context of summer and the rising temperatures in Europe. So just a quick reminder, you can find all the previous webinars from this series in the WECF's YouTube channel. We will also send, after the session, the PDF file with a bit of information and the links so that you can go back to those series in case you're interested in. So before we begin, let's take a brief look back at the previous webinars to get an overall sense of the journey that we have covered through this series, and then we will go to the webinar that's the topic that we'll be sharing today. So in our first webinar, we presented the toolkit, the EU Green Deal Toolkit for Youth, that you can also scan the QR code that you see on the screen now. You can download it for free. So in that session, we presented the toolkit, which is a practical resource designed to make the Green Deal easier to understand with clear explanations and ready-to-use activities and workshops. We also looked at what works and what could be done better, and why bringing in an ecofeminist perspective makes these policies more inclusive and fair. That session brought together a diverse group of participants, local authorities, NGOs, young people, and citizens. And the idea was to share a little bit experiences and what do we know about the EU Green Deal. So after this, that introductory webinar, we continued the series with a set of shorter ones, more focused sessions, each dedicated to a specific topic. Those webinars allowed us to dive deeper into key issues, always trying to connect the European Green Deal and linking the policy discussion with everyday experiences and exploring their social and gender dimension. So the second webinar was about fast fashion. There was a key session also because we did it in December, which was the start of the holiday season. So as Christmas and the end of year celebrations get closer, people usually buy more clothes. So it's a particular relevant moment to reflect on the environmental impacts of fashion. So in that webinar, we explored how fast fashion is deeply connected to broader environmental challenges, such as pollution, waste, and use of toxic chemicals, as well as social inequalities across global supply chains. From an ecofeminist perspective, we discussed why the European Green Deal needs to incorporate stronger and fairer regulations to better protect both people and the planet, of course. So our speakers in that session highlighted how the industry relies on overproduction, cheap fossil-based materials, and low-wage labor. And we also reflected on new policies, such as eco-design and extended producer responsibilities, and their potential while recognizing also the current limitations. So after that session, that fast fashion session, which was very interesting, I highly recommend it to see you if you haven't seen it yet. We had another webinar, which was also about energy poverty. It was energy poverty in the winter session, in the winter season. So in that session, we discussed a little bit about how the EU Green Deal connects to everyday life, especially from a gender and social justice perspective. So we started from a very simple idea, which is that people facing poverty are not just helped by policies, but we also have valuable experiences and everyday solutions. So again, from an ecofeminist perspective, we discussed how the energy transition is not only about technology or emissions, but it is also about daily life. So energy poverty shows how inequalities like gender, income, care responsibilities, and housing conditions shape people's access to energy. We also explored how the EU Green Deal can help address the challenges, particularly through energy and housing policies. So our speakers in that session shared some practical examples, like local initiatives in The Hague and also in Germany, showing how community-based solutions can make a real difference. So overall, the session combined policies, lived experiences, and practical tools to better understand energy poverty and support more fair and inclusive solutions. And then the last the last webinar of this series that we had a couple of weeks ago was about chemicals. So we focus on toxic chemicals in everyday life, especially for women, looking at pesticides and cosmetics. We explored how exposure is not the same for everyone, but it's shaped by daily habits, care roles, and work. So across Europe, women and children are exposed to different chemicals every day through food, cosmetics, or menstrual products, and often even without noticing it. So in that session, we focused on two main areas. As I said before, it was cosmetics and pesticides. Um, we also highlighted that the current regulations, such as REACH, are important but are still limited, as they often assess chemicals one by one, while in reality, the exposure to toxics and chemicals is cumulative, and gender differences are rarely considered in the public policy. Finally, the speakers in that webinar emphasized that people are not passive. Many already develop everyday strategies to deal with these risks. So the key message was very clear. A truly toxic-free future requires going beyond technical solutions and putting health and gender equality and also, of course, social justice at the center. So that was a little bit of for you to have a general idea of the previous webinars of this series. And now we arrive at the final session of this series. And as I said before, today we will focus on rising temperatures and how heat is increasingly shaping everyday life across Europe. Heat waves are becoming more frequent and intense, affecting how people live, work, and care for others. Also, it's important to say that heat waves and energy poverty is not the same in different countries of the European Union. So while energy poverty is often linked to winter, as I said before as well, today we will look at the growing challenge of summer energy poverty. So we have some experts here that I will present them in a couple of minutes. So we will have a general idea of what energy poverty is in the European Union, and then we will dive deeper in the situation in Portugal. So before we start and I present our speakers, we would like to hear from you. So if you can scan this QR code that you have in the screen, please, we would love to hear from you from two short questions. The first question is, have you heard of energy poverty before? And the other one is if you can answer in one or two or three words, how do you experience heat waves in your daily life? And sorry that my cat is here. I will open the door for her. Okay, so most of you have heard about energy poverty before. So we have a audience that it's into the topic. Great. Okay, maybe Leo, if you want to share the second one. So how do you experience heat waves in your daily life? I can give maybe one answer, one word, not at all. Okay. If you can't, okay, prefer to stay indoors, okay, high heat index, unescapable, yes, that's a good one. And healthy, definitely, yes. Okay, suspension of the work. So you can't go to work when it's too hot. I would like to know where are you from? Because as I said before, of course, this is very differently experienced in different countries of the EU. Okay, great. Well, thanks so much for your answers. So you can keep this in mind. And since we have to run a little bit because we only have an hour, we will go to our first speaker. Um, So it's time to welcome our first speaker. Thank you so much, Erman, for being here with us today. So Erman Eragan is a policy and campaign officer at Climate Action Network Europe, where he works on policies for a just and ambitious decarbonization of the built environment. And he coordinates the Build Better Lives campaign, bringing together organizations working on social justice, housing, climate, and youth. Erman, please, the floor is yours. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I will just share my screen in a moment. It should be visible, right? Perfect.
We
Hi,
can
everyone.
see
So
it.
I will try to keep the 10 minutes. That way we have more time to talk about it. Maybe just start with the caveat that I will try to give an overview of where we are with energy poverty at EU level, knowing that this is not supposed to be extensive as the topic of sovereign energy poverty touches on many aspects. And as I work more with the vision of buildings, you will have a bias of tackling it through buildings and not other issues that are also relevant to summer energy poverty. So I will not go through the slide because Clara kindly presented me, and I will start with a bit some data on what do we talk when we talk about summer energy poverty. We have one first. Element we can say is that compared to winter energy poverty, data is much more less systematized. Nevertheless, we have some data that says that we have one out of five EU citizens that are unable to keep their homes cool enough. That this is not only about health and uncomfort, but also results in extreme weather events and sometimes even have heat-related deaths. Uh, Maybe coming back to the element that we saw in the word cloud as well, that there is an aspect of summer energy poverty that makes it unescapable. Um, and that also we have, as you may know, a fourfold increase in cooling degree days. So the days we will have to cool is increasing, and as we're operating in the context of climate change, these degree days are also conditional to our progress in terms of climate response. So, as you know, the building sector is one of the big players in terms of energy consumption and related emissions. So, in a way, the building sector is adapting and answering to the heat it creates by its emissions. So there is a double challenge there to reduce emissions on the one hand, but also have different technologies and ways of adapting to the heat. As I said, so far energy poverty has been dominated by an approach on winter energy poverty. This could be seen in also data on the amount of energy we use for heating and not cooling. This is still dominant in terms of energy consumption, and also with the additional information that is not least that it's still fossil based. So there's a Great challenge there to decarbonize also the way we heat and cool ourselves. Even if the cooling part is not dominant, as I said, it's growing a lot and is expected to grow a lot. And also, there's a strong geographical aspect of it with big disparities. In countries like Malta, we arrived to 15% already today, and this could go significantly higher in the next years. There's also a infrastructure aspect to it, as I said, from the buildings perspective, because many of our buildings, 75%, according to Commission's data, is inefficient, which makes it even more complicated to cool down, and which in some aspect could bring what we call kettle homes, where it's really impossible to cool ourselves. We also have an issue of efficiency in the cooling devices we have in these houses, as statistics show that we have nearly 50% of heating systems that are outdated, so need either change or adaptation to different needs, which also brings to the other issue that is not maybe numbered there, but there's also, especially in this context of oil crisis, an aspect of it's a health issue, it's a comfort issue, but it's also an economic issue, obviously. And this is an issue that will be growing. So far, we have had measures and reflection on winter in terms of energy poverty. But as you may see, this is also going to be present during our summers. Well, hopefully not, but yeah. So yeah, just to say that this is a summer energy poverty is an under-measured issue. I will come in the next slide with a couple of elements on where we are with data and also under-recognized in terms of policy. So as I said, one of the limitations is data. We have data, but it's not systematized enough. We don't systematically have self-reported cooling deprivation indicators, such as keeping our homes cool enough. We also lack objective measures such as indoor overheating, the number of days and exposure time, which is very important for health issues. And we also lack disaggregated data on vulnerability factors, gender, age, tenure, which we have some data in very specific countries, but at EU level, this is not systematized. So in the next slides, I will talk a bit about different inequality factors, knowing that this is what we observe, but we need to know it better and to systematize it also to guide policy. Um, and also, we rarely link it in our policy making in health outcomes. So, in terms of heat stress and mortality, there are clearly some synergies to have there with the health sector and the building and energy sectors. So, maybe some quick recommendations there are quite evident is to really have these disaggregated, objective, and self-reported data being systematized. Use it through national surveys that statistical offices of the EU does, and also integrate it in different planning tools, to which I'll come later on. A couple of words on the different elements of summer energy poverty. Maybe here I'm taking this figure that really illustrates a bit the complexity of summer energy poverty that is on one way social and societal elements that creates vulnerability, on also physical elements that are the housing level. So the poor insulation, the inefficient technical cooling systems, the composition of the house in terms of overcrowded housing, and also the broader city aspect of it that brings urban heat islands or also the lack of green spaces, and all of this facing also the unequal exposure that the different these elements are facing. So there are multiple factors that are interrelated, and so we're going to focus a bit more than on the EU framework on policies that are relevant for buildings, but noting also that does not limit to built environment. And as I said, we observe this proportionality in terms of the groups that are affected by summer energy poverty, obviously, as low-income households, elderly and chronically ill and disabled population, as well as women and caregivers. So now we'll try to give a bit of an overview of what we have in terms of policy at the level, where do we have the definitions, again, noting that this is not extensive and happy to answer any questions and to give more information. So two maybe important policies are the Energy Efficiency Directive that gives at the EU level the energy efficiency objectives, targets, and different means to arrive to this efficiency targets we have, as well as the Performance of Buildings Directive were recently adapted part of the Green Deal. The Energy Efficiency Directive is also important in terms of definition. It's where we find the definition of energy poverty, and it includes an element of cooling as the ability of not having services of cooling. That's also where member state will be mandated to have local heating and cooling plans, where cities more than for 45,000 inhabitants need to come up with cooling plans to decarbonize their heating and cooling. Also, there is the targeting of vulnerable households in these efficiency measures with ring-fenced financing, and also the energy efficiency obligation schemes that also include um, cooling systems, distributors, and operators. And in the Energy of Performance Buildings Directive, there are many elements, but in terms of tools, I added some elements there. One is the building renovation plan that I will come to a bit more in the next slide, and also information tools and targets such as on indoor environmental quality, and also one-stop shops that could be leveraged to also include assistance to addressing summer energy poverty. Noting also some cross-cutting elements that can and should include summer energy poverty to be targeted, such as the Social Climate Fund, and also the eco design rules that are legiferating on cooling technologies. So as you see, there are different elements, and it's also very important to see that these should be done consistently and in complementarity at national level. So yeah, a couple of elements from the national building in France. I will not go too much into details. There's a lot of things, but just broadly to point out the different elements where summer and energy poverty can come in these plans. So in a nutshell, these plans are really national level plans that needs to plan the decarbonization of the built environment of countries, where in the first part, the countries need to assess the current state of the built environment, and also including elements on building types, also climatic zone, and the granularity there would allow to have a good overview of what needs to be tackled to tackle summer energy poverty in terms of different realities, in terms of climatic zones, rural areas, urban areas that really have different challenges. The national building renovation plans are also an opportunity to add in the element of data that I just mentioned, to systematize it and to guide policy. There is also targets on reduction of number affected by energy poverty. The plans are also an opportunity to define energy poverty as dual in terms of all year round energy poverty, and not only focus on winter energy poverty. And this, for example, can be reflected in the targets on energy poverty with disaggregated that data, and really highlighting the different elements I mentioned on the disaggregated vulnerable groups. Another element would be to really add in the element of energy consumption and the decarbonization of cooling technologies, but also focusing on climate resilience elements, and including adaptation measure and non-mechanical cooling as part of upgrades brought to buildings. And also, last but not least, also in the monitoring of social impacts, as these plans are meant to be renewed every 5 years. There should be an element on monitoring and also on reflection to ensure that we go in the good direction. So I will close down with a couple of recommendations in leveraging these plans to address summer energy poverty. As I said, one is really define the problem goods, define the problem granularity, really highlight the territorial aspects and the different complexity that I mentioned in terms of links between the physical environment, but also social structures. Um, really also have climate resilience and the socio-economic assessment to really also, for example, take into account urban heat islands and how this is reflected in the answers. Also prioritize passive cooling in the deep renovation we have, and not only solely answer the cooling issue with mechanical cooling technologies. And also, when we use mechanical technologies, address the efficiency issues as well, ensuring that we have efficient cooling technologies. That's also allowing economic benefits. Um, Also, in the district and neighborhood approaches that are suggested as optional in the plans, really use this as an opportunity to have a broader city level reflection on the actions to be complemented, such as deep renovation programs, but also reflection on urban planning and greening of the city to really address the heat island effects in urban areas. And also, last but not least, have a reflection on the financial aspect and the financial tools put at used to activate and address summer energy poverty, notably by ring fencing and having technical assistance on the different vulnerable groups I mentioned, and on ensuring that summer energy comfort is prioritized in the public finance. So I will just end at this. I hope I wasn't too fast, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Herman. Thanks so much. Of course, just a quick reminder for everyone, if you have any questions for Herman, please feel free to write them in the chat, and we'll come back to them at the end of the session. So thank you, Herman. That was very interesting. And now we're happy to continue with our second speaker. Thank you so much, Islene, for being with us today, despite that you are super tired coming back from some trips. So we really appreciate it. Thank you. Islene Fasania is a project manager and a policy officer at Zero, an environmental NGO based in Portugal with experience in policy analysis, advocacy, and strategy development in the field of sustainability and climate change. Islene will share a little bit more about the situation in Portugal. So please, Irene, thank you.
Thank you. I will try to share my screen. Please let me know if is everything okay. Good?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. I'm happy that this is working. So, hello everyone. I'm really happy to be here to share a little bit of our work in Portugal. And good that Herman already gave an overview, because it's true. Some energy poverty is still something that is not mentioned that much in the national policies. But I'm going through this presentation, going basically from winter to summer to give you a perspective of what is happening, and also the context of Portugal, because it's interesting for presenting what is happening here. And through my presentation, let me just go through. I talk about energy poverty, like specifically Portugal as a hotspot of vulnerability. And I'll mention also our national campaign and some little surprise to inspire you in the end of this presentation. So about energy poverty, I know that most of us here, we already know what is the definition of energy poverty, but it's important to flag that energy poverty was defined in our longest strategy for building renovation. So we basically talk about the situation that the household is not able to access adequate energy service for heating, for cooling, lighting, and power for appliances, and to basically have decent standard of living. In Portugal, this is quite a recent definition and also topic, because we started talking more about energy poverty from 2006, if I'm not wrong, because it was exactly the time that we start transposing the directives from the EU level to national level. And to give you some idea here, okay. Portugal faced one of the highest energy poverty rates in the EU. So we are always between the 6th, 4th place, but in the bad rate, because we are suffering a lot with energy poverty for many years, and this has a historical aspect. So nearly 60% of our population, they don't have basically adequate ways to warm the homes. And it's in Portugal 70% higher than the EU average, that is 9.2. So 60% is a lot, and we had like between these years 16, 20% of people complaining, mostly during winter, because it's still the most visible aspect is still through the winter, this process of actually giving visibility to energy poverty in Portugal. And here, so giving you a little bit of the history behind energy poverty in Portugal. And I put some nice pictures of our building stock for you to be also familiar with how is our building stock being presented. So we have an old and inefficient building stock, with around 70% of our buildings inefficient and being constructed before the 1990. So this has the history of the fast urbanization that we passed through Portugal, severe housing shortage, that people started just building the way that they knew and without any requirements. So for this reason, we have the first symptom of the current energy poverty that we have in the country. So it was a lot of informal construction, self-built houses, and at the time that they didn't even have any energy efficiency standards that only started in Portugal in the 1990s. So it's, again, recent when they start building houses that they were more efficient, or even thinking about having these requirements in the construction. And as a result, we have many homes that they are poorly insulated, maintained, and also with the energy poverty. And according to our energy agency, we have more than 60% of our house rated between C and F, that they are the lowest efficient energy certifications. So this is to give you an overview of the big problem that we have in our hands in the country. That's here. So, and I said before, our problems, they started having the visibility during winter, because it's really hard to keep our homes warm during winter. And it's something that every Portuguese person says, like, wow, it's winter. It's colder inside my house than outside. So let's go out. This is something that is usually something that everyone says during winter, because it's really something that is common. We feel connected through winter because of our housing problem. And also it's hard to keep our homes cool during the summer. What is something that is being even more, it's an aspect that people, they are complaining more lately with the amount of heat waves that we are having in the country. And also something that the reliance on the inefficient systems is something that it's characteristic in Portugal, because we still use open fireplace, electric heaters, and fans to try to cool or to keep the heat inside our homes during these seasons. And now showing some numbers. Just to give you an idea, that in Portugal, we have around 3 million people living in energy poverty. These are numbers of our last energy poverty long strategy. so that was published in 2024. And around 660,000 people suffering with severe energy poverty. And from these numbers, we have nearly 16% of the population that cannot keep their homes adequately warm. And during summer, to cool, it's around close to 30% to make them comfortable during summer. And another number that calls my attention always when I talk about energy poverty in Portugal is the basically the percentage of the population that reports infiltrations, mold, that is 30.9% of the population. The only other member state that is really in a similar level is Cyprus. That also has like a climate that is really similar to Portugal, but has the same problems. So Cyprus is the first and Portugal comes in second with the worst state of the structure, that we have these complaints in infiltration and molds and moisture inside our houses. And all of these aspects of energy poverty, they are linked to the house quality and energy poverty, that they are really close, because when we have this excess of heat during summer, we don't know where to go, because also in our cities we have less like green space to run. We don't have the proper equipment also to cool inside our houses. And this makes the energy bills really expensive. And also to buy the equipment, we don't have, at least now, we don't have any public support to guide the population, to help the population also to go through the changes that are needed to tackle this problem of energy poverty. And also we have health implications that are really serious from the mold that brings respiratory conditions such as asthma, allergies, and chronic health problems, mostly in vulnerable groups, for example, the children and the elderly. And Portugal is a country with a big portion of the population, they are elderly, and they are suffering with these conditions. And we don't have numbers during summer, because again, as Herman was saying before, we don't have that much statistic related to summer, but through winter, we have 25% of death of elderly inside their homes because of the conditions, the structural problems that we have inside our homes because of energy poverty. And there is also a clear indicator of hiding energy poverty, because it's not only related to the low income, but there are families that they cannot pass through the renovations to change equipment, because here is a matter of energy poverty of low incomes. In Portugal, we have a population with really low income that cannot have the effort to change, for example, the equipment or have the renovations. For example, we need these supporting programs to give support to the population to do the changes that are needed, or giving also options to diversify the finance, or have like loans for the families that still can have some financial effort to pass through the renovations. But this is a huge problem also in Portugal because of the low income. And going through this extremely weather events like heat waves, heavy rainfalls, it's something that also call for the climate resilient dimension that is really important for us, and combining with the policy relevance, that is having ambitious plans and putting them in action, because I think we already have so many papers, so many policies. It's time to go through the action that is really needed to change these conditions. And I'm going now to present how Portugal is the hotspot also, because we have Portugal is in a location that is highly exposed due with the Mediterranean Atlantic location, is this combination of factors geographically also brings Portugal and the Southern Europe as a climate hotspot. So we are passing through, I don't know if you follow through the news, but we had like really heavy rains since October last year until February this year. That was really hard for the population to recover from that. And we are exposure also to water stress, and besides also this extreme weather that make it particularly sensitive of the impacts of climate change. And climate change poses a significant environmental, economical, and public health challenge for Portugal, requiring really urgent adaptation measures. And bringing here some pictures because I want to show to you some of the consequence of our last problems that we had with these storms. That I don't know if you saw, but we had this damage in the central area of the country in Portugal. And this impact was felt in the housing stock that is not designed to pass through these extreme temperatures and extreme events. So increased the demand for heating and also cooling. And there is this exposure to longer heat waves and poor air quality. That is also another problem that comes with the energy poverty. And the result is worsening the thermal discomfort that we have in our homes, the higher risk of energy poverty, and the health impacts that, as I said before. And I also present some case that we had in Portugal of families that they pass through really horrible health problems and heat stress. And we don't know still how to deal with that because there is no guidance related to that. We still have some warnings during the heat season that they say, oh, drink water, take care of your health, but we don't have still guidance to be prepared inside our own homes. And through these events that we passed of storms until February, February was the rainiest month in the last 47 years in Portugal. So just for you to have an idea how was the impact of everything that happened. And was it also a time for Portugal to be really vocal and to try to find solutions, and was a huge discussion on having basically European Climate Adaptation Fund with adequate scale and transparency and criteria to reflect all these extreme events that are happening in certain countries, because these recent storms caused over 4 billion indirectly reconstruction costs in the country. So there was a huge damage, and we should prevent these extreme events and also take care of the infrastructure of the country. And our buildings, they are not prepared to pass through this again. And this was winter and summer. We also had some droughts in the last years. The biggest one was through 2022. You can see images of the dam that just show again a village that was covered by the water and was really horrible impacts in many areas in Portugal, and mostly in the regions of Algarve, more south, because the highest increase in heat related death was something mentioned in the news. But we don't have still specific data to bring the attention also to talk more deeply about this problem nationally. But I know that Portugal and Spain, we are the most vulnerable countries to the health impacts of extreme heat, with heat alerts increasing by 318% between 2015 and I think it was 2025. That we had like these enormous is a really interesting and big number for us to pay attention and consider also when we work with energy poverty. I hope I'm not being too fast, but
no. Actually, we're kind of running out of time. So are you
okay.
you have the video now, Islene?
I'm just talking about the national campaign. I'm going through the video.
Then
This
maybe
is
the
the
video,
last
we
part.
will share the link and then people can see it afterwards because we have very short time. So I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, I'm going through the national campaign. That is, we have this campaign called Dignified Home for Everyone. Was a campaign that we had warm home for everyone, but we need to change because we were working only during winter, but we start working through the entire year after all the heat waves that we could see happen in the country. And our campaign basically is to ensure the decent homes that reduce energy consumption, lower our household costs, and decrease the greenhouse gas emissions to bring quality of life and also a sustainable and welcoming living space for everyone. And we work through public awareness, information. We have citizen engagement to help us sharing that experience of energy poverty with testimonies, with surveys, and also make them act. Help us giving voice to the population through email actions and also through photo exhibition that we also can check in the website of the campaign. And this is one of the cases of really extreme energy poverty that we have. As I was saying before, houses complain about infiltration, mold, rot. So this is one of our testimonies that we have from Sofia, that she's a citizen, that she participated in the photo exhibition. There is also audio in English that if you go in the website of the campaign, you can hear her saying her experience. And we went to take pictures in her place, and that was the situation. Her family suffer with a lot of respiratory disease and chronic disease because of this situation. And she lives in a social housing neighborhood that is always asking for help to have some renovation, and they are not. There is no possibility for them to ask help through the support programs because they are not in the requirements that they can actually ask for the support programs. So they need renovation through the government, and this is one of our extremely cases. And the second part that I want to present, but it will not be possible, is the mobilization that we did a video clip with the citizens of this neighborhood that Sofia lives. And we could have more than 60 people participating in the video that is a single voice about housing and bringing the importance of having like healthy and dignified homes for everyone. So it was a beautiful campaign and a video that became an anthem about housing and energy efficiency in Portugal. I'm not sharing, but I share the link with you. And this is the launch of the video clip that the entire community participate. They were sharing what we need to do to tackle energy poverty in Portugal, saying that we need to spread this video because inspire people to do in other communities, to raise their voices for the government, to pressure for the renovations that we need, and for more campaigns for the politicians to be aware that this is a huge problem for everyone. And I will leave here, like, this is the website of the campaign and some data. But if you have any questions, we can talk later. Thank you very much. So sorry.
Thanks so much, Islena. That was very interesting. And I'm sorry that we don't have a lot of time because it was very interesting. But of course, we can share all these links after the session and we will share the video, which is really nice. And I highly recommend it to see it. So thank you again, both of you. We had some questions in the chat, but I've seen that Erman has already answered some of the questions, but we can go through that in the end. But before we move to our final plenary session, we would like to take a few minutes to exchange in some small groups. So you will be now divided into 2 breakout rooms. And the idea is to reflect a little bit together on a few questions, of course, related to energy poverty in summer and how people experience heat waves in your country and in your regions. So the questions are these 3 ones here. You will have 10 minutes for the discussion. If you want to do a screenshot of the questions, because I think that when we will move to the breakout rooms, you won't have access to the presentation. Anyway, in the breakout room that I will share it, the questions. So we will be back here in 10 minutes, no more than that, maybe 8 minutes, since we are almost in time. So I'll see you in a couple of minutes back. So please, Leo, you can go on with the breakout rooms. Thank you. Oh, Leo, are you there? Yes. So we are back in the general room now. I hope you had some time to share a little bit your experiences with your other colleagues. Well, I think some people leave because we were some more participants, but anyway, maybe someone would like to share from the other group, just 2 or 3 questions, and we are almost on time. So just a quick word from the other group, and then from maybe someone would like to speak, just turn on the microphone and you can go on.
Yes, maybe I can go on.
Of course.
We talked about multiple issues in terms of vulnerability. We went back a bit about the issue of maybe the difficulty of migrant workers, where you face the problem of often not being documented, or when you are being very, very vulnerable to extreme weather events when you're working, and that there is also this very block situation of even unionizing is a threat because that would jeopardize your livelihood. So in terms of vulnerability, we mentioned that. We also mentioned in insulation materials during heat waves, maybe the relationship of um, starker heat waves and different materials, and also with having in mind pollution. And we also covered a bit maybe commercial buildings and non-residential buildings having air conditioning and the relationship with the broader urban environment, right? Having air conditioning that cools down private commercial spaces and heats up the city, and maybe the need to think about this and having maybe different policies. And last, also about the different heat wave realities in urban and rural Romania and the different possible solutions. So, for example, cooling shelters and outside showers, and also just in the case of rural Romania, going to the mountains, but with the caveat of keeping that and yes, not artificializing more. I think I'll stop at that.
Thank you, Erman. I don't know if somebody else would like to share some reflections from your group. You can just turn on the microphones. Also, if there is any question that you would like to go through in the last couple of minutes, we are already on time.
Oh,
So,
I think
yeah.
someone, Michaela, she wants to talk. She was, I think.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yes, Michaela.
Thank you. Very strange sound.
Oh, I think that we can't hear you well, Michaela. I don't know if it's
Yes,
on
because
me.
it's an echo. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I raised an issue.
Oh, I don't know. It's
Are you on 2 devices, perhaps, the computer and the telephone?
No.
Okay.
I raised an issue. I cannot.
I'm so sorry, Michaela, but I don't know what's going on. Maybe you can write it on the chat. Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, we wait until Michaela. I don't know if there's anyone else that would like to speak or if you have a question, please feel free. No questions.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
I'm so
wanted
sorry.
to summarize what we've been talking about, that it's very important to look at urban planning and create a holistic vision. As Islana was telling, in Portugal, they are building apartment blocks, building houses in cities that are more suitable for the Northern European region. For instance, I am based in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, where it's quite common to have very, very large windows to soak up all the light and the sunlight, which means that the past summers, there's always been a few days where it's 40 degrees. So before you know it, it's well over 40 degrees in your house and completely unbearable. Yeah, those are things that are very important to raise awareness on this topic and to look at how we can change things just by changing our urban planning, and also, yeah, it goes also for rural areas, but heat zones are very common now these days in cities and very unhealthy.
Definitely. Thank you, Chantal, for sharing. Well, if there is anyone else that would like to speak, with this, we come to the end of our session, and also we come to the end of our webinar series. Thank you again, Islene Erman, for being here today, and thank you for all the participants. It was very interesting to share all these insightful presentations with you. As I said before, we will be sending you a PDF file by email with a summary of the whole series and some useful information. Also the YouTube video that we couldn't see from Islene's project. And with this, we have the question from Michaela that she says, I think that you should link energy poverty with the issue of building insulation with polystyrene, a program supported by the EU funds. This is not good for summertime because the heat is kept inside and it's necessary a cooling device, and also the polystyrene affect the human health. Yes, definitely. Thank you, Michaela. I don't know if some of the speakers would like to react to that comment, or if you have something else to share.
Yes, I can also say that, it's important for us to think about insulation, but about the ventilation. Also apply also the natural ventilation when we're building, because most of the houses, even in the example that Chantal was sharing, most of the houses in certain parts of Europe, they are built to the cold, to pass through the cold, to be like warmer. But with the winter, if you go to these houses, it's like a greenhouse. It's impossible to be inside. So a matter of ventilation, proper products, and also think about heating and cooling, I think is the way that we should go. And thinking also to work closely with architects and engineers to find the best solutions for every climate, because there is no one recipe. We need to see the dynamics and how the buildings are in different parts of Europe.
Thank you, Islene. Well, thank you, everyone, for sharing this session, and we really hope to see you again. Please stay in touch. You can follow us in our social media and Instagram, LinkedIn, and also Blue Sky. And we hope to see you again very soon. Thank you. Have a nice rest of the day and have a nice weekend.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.